What is up? It is Mock Draft Monday, and I am joined for the first time on Mock Draft Monday history, right? Or at least this year. Were you with us last year? I don't think, did you do one last
No,
year?
can you believe it? This is my first time doing Mock Draft Monday.
Wow. The OG
Yeah,
of the TCR Live family, right?
yeah.
Kyler, really kind of the guy who really was one of the first people who started joining me on here on the live streams. Uh, and this is your first time on Mock Draft Monday. So
It
I'm
is.
super excited to have you here. So I'm sure everyone else is excited, and and as Mikey says, it's an exciting time to be a Cardinals fan, and we'll talk about that some more. Kyler, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to get torn apart with this mock draft because I think there's a reason I haven't been on Mock Draft Monday before. I do the mock drafts and I try to know the big names, but I'm not a giant college football guy.
Hmm.
So me diving into the names for the draft is more of a let's get ready for the draft thing. So
Yeah.
Um, I'm excited about what your fans' opinion will be.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a big college football guy either. I never have been. I don't, and so you're in the right place. Mock Draft Monday is, I'll be honest, like for me, it's my vehicle to learn about the draft class. Like I start looking at and running mock drafts, looking at some of the prospects on the big board, but I don't know a ton about them before we start this. I know there's a few folks who hang out with us in the chat who, are really big draft nicks, but like, for me, this is how we learn about it, and for a lot of our audience, it is too. So this is the right place. You're in a safe place to learn about the draft prospects with us, Kyler. So
I
this is the
appreciate
right
that.
place. Yeah, absolutely. So
Excellent.
yes, indeed. Well, let's say hey to some of the folks who are hanging out with us in the chat. We got Randy Morrison, Burd Gang. Thanks for being here, Randy. Appreciate you. Of course, we got Mikey. Buckle up. Don't get it twisted. We're going to win games. Let's go Cardinals. We've got Drew McWhorter, adaptable, violent, and smart. And we got King Plumtree. Thanks for being here. Not sure about anything. Excited for the season to start. Yep. I think there's a lot of excitement. There's also, there's maybe a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of hey, here's hoping, right? But I think there's also a lot of excitement in the air. We've got Simon Shee, thanks for being here. Mock Draft Money, let's go. We've got Avery 1X, let's go. Mock Draft Money time. We have Grandizer, who always does such a great job of holding down the chat. Appreciate you, good sir. We have Chris R. Yo, let's rip it, right? How many ways and times can Gannon say let's rip it? So let's get into some of the news and notes. We before we get into the mock drafts, we like to talk about what's going on in Cardinals world, and there's a few interesting things I think to discuss. First of all, Jonathan Gannon is filling out his staff. Right, there was a report on February 18th, just a couple days ago, that Nick Rouse, the linebackers coach for the Eagles, someone who the Eagles fans hoped would be the next defensive coordinator in Philadelphia, is coming to the Cardinals to be the defensive coordinator. And I got to tell you, I've seen some of the stuff on social media. First of all, it's getting, rave reviews as a great hire. People, calling him the Sean McVay of defense, and those are, high praises, but seems to be a respected, ascending, mind in terms of defensive coaches. But my favorite part, the chef's kiss, is the salty Eagles fans who were all up in our mentions like, Jonathan Gannon, he couldn't make adjustments. Yeah, good riddance. You guys take Jonathan Gannon. We're glad. Take him. I got those comments from some Eagles fans and saw on Twitter, and now they're like, wait, you can't take Nick Rouse. So for me, it's just a little chef's kiss kind of, great, just to see that maybe a little bit of a little karma coming back at them for, trying to kind of, trying to take a little bit of the wind out of our sails with our new coach. So, but in all seriousness, this is a great hire because Philadelphia was probably going to offer him the defensive coordinator job there, I have to imagine. And I have to imagine they might have offered more money. I mean, I don't know, but as we'll talk about in a minute, the Eagles seem to be willing to spend to keep people. And he chose the Cardinals, right, with Jonathan Gannon. For an organization that's been taken through the mud in the media and its reputation, a bad PR year, right? This is a win to get him, right?
Yeah.
Let me get through
He also interviewed with Denver.
Yeah.
Too. So we weren't his only option for a defensive coordinator position, possibly. All of the praise that I've heard, everything I have heard about Nick Rawls has been positive so far.
Yeah.
Haven't heard a bad word about him, so it's exciting that we get the young, upcoming assistant that everyone's raving about. Like, we get him for once, so the salty Eagles fans can eat it.
Right. It kind of, I don't know, it gives this feeling that maybe we're building something here. You know what I'm saying? Like that there's something like, listen, I know that things have been rough, but like Gannon's here, there's some excitement. He chose to be here, and we'll talk about a little bit more in a few minutes why. And then, Rallis had other options. Could have stayed in Philadelphia, a team that was just in the Super Bowl, but he chose to come here to do something hopefully special, right? Then they also, as was anticipated, right, hired their offensive coordinator, Zoo Petzing, from he was a quarterback coach from the Browns. Now, both of these coaches worked with Gannon in Minnesota, so that's kind of the connection. They all get to know each other there. And there's some things I really like about him. What I think he's going to bring here. We probably don't have time to get into all that. And then today there was word that longtime special teams coach Jeff Rodgers, the third, was retained as the special teams coordinator, and I'm assuming still assistant head coach. He's been here through three coaching change, right? Three coaches now, right? Wilkes, yep, Kingsbury, and now Gannon. So they've got a good start, right? They're putting together their staff. Now we're going to start to see some of the position coaches, probably some more veteran coaches because they went so young with the offensive defensive coordinator. So now, what are your thoughts now that I've kind of thrown this all out there, and what's going on with the staff and the direction and about these hires in general?
Jeff Rodgers, I'm very pleased to have back. I think it says everything you need to know about him, that he's survived 2 regime changes. He's highly thought of. He's respected across the league. Special teams really hasn't been the Cardinals' problem ever since he's come on board. We've even had some really big game-shifting special teams play during his tenure. So I'm excited to see him. I also think it's nice that there's some type of continuity. It's not complete clean house. So some of the players on the team still do have a coach that they're used to that's been around. And as far as I know, he's retaining the assistant head coach. It's still on the website. That hasn't changed, but he may not. That might come away if Jonathan Gannon's trying to hire one of those veteran people that he's been talking about to come in as like a senior advisory position. But Nick Rawls, I've already said I'm super pumped about him. What he did with the Eagles linebackers was really impressive, and hoping that he can bring some of that to our 2 first-round picks at linebacker right now. If he can bring some of that linebacker magic, that'd be amazing in of itself. Regardless of everything else, if he can turn Simmons, especially Simmons, into the star that he should be, and then Zaven into the solid, dependable player that he should be, then that's a great hire. And Drew Petzing, I just honestly don't know much about him, just to be totally honest. But from the very beginning, with Jonathan Gannon being even talked about as a head coach, people were saying that this was the guy who was most likely going to bring along with him. So I know they spent 4 years together in Minnesota. I would imagine that they're pretty close. And the only insight I've gotten on him is his propensity for the bootleg and the play action, which is something we've been begging for Kyler Murray to do since we've drafted him. So if he brings some of that, and well, we'll get to it in a little bit, but some of what Gannon has said about what the offense will look like, then if he can run that vision, then that's great. So as long as he has a good relationship with Kyler Murray, I think these are good hires.
So I want to jump in here, and I've seen these in the chat, but I wanted to let you finish. Cole was the first. There's some breaking news. They just hired an O-line coach, Clayton Adams, as the new offensive line coach. Moore's Legacy saying here they're hiring Clayton Adams as an OL coach. Adams was the Colts tight end coach the previous 2 seasons. A place where Gannon had some time with the Colts, right? So that's not surprising, right? So new offensive line coach, right? So and then there have been reports, as Jordan P is saying here, that I saw these as well. Drew Terrell, the receivers coach, I believe that's who it was for the Commanders. They've gone through so many name changes. Who interviewed for the offensive coordinator position, is a strong candidate for passing game coordinator. So we're going to see more of these names, coming in now that the coordinators are there. And obviously some folks have talked about Mike Munchak and Mike Zimmer's names have been mentioned. Gannon is very much influenced by Mike Zimmer. So there's going to be some veteran names on this staff as it comes together. So let me say hey to some of the other folks in the chat. I know I hit on a couple of your comments with that. I want to say hey to Salty's Gaming. Thanks for being here. Go check out Salty. He's got a gaming channel, and he also is a regular contributor and guest on the He's on Fire podcast. So thanks for dropping in here. Definitely check out his gaming channel and follow him on Twitter. He's got a sports Twitter handle and a gaming one. Thanks for being here. We've got Easy No Steroids. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We've got Lance. Yes, sir. Thanks for being here. Right. Drew saying he had just recently joined Stanford staff as a line coach and run game coordinator. Okay. Give Gannon the reins. This is what we wanted. It feels like they're letting him bring in the guys he wants, right? I mean, listen, think about how much Cardinals fans were lamenting and even saying, oh yeah, they're going to, and I feared this, but they were trying to, they kept Vance Joseph around, and they may have wanted to at least see if there was a chance he would be retained. But, clearly Michael Bidwell did not force him on Jonathan Gannon, right? Now he met with him and the decision was made that he would move on. And listen, if they had him under contract, I don't mind that they kept him around to see, because Vance Joseph's a respected coach, and it's possible the next coach would want to retain him, and he didn't. That's fine, right? I want to mention also something about Jeff Rodgers, and I tweeted this out. You're right. Having that continuity, having that veteran presence, having that coach. I know some people say you want a clean house, but even on bad staffs, there's good coaches. And Jeff Rodgers having, withstood a coaching change tells you something about him. But I think what's also particularly relevant, and I mentioned this in my tweet, is as a special teams coach, he works with offensive and defensive players. So he has a broader range of familiarity with the roster than the other coaches that might have been retained. And I think that's going to be a really helpful bridge for this new staff as they're getting to know the players. He's been here. He is going to be for them what is often called institutional knowledge. He's going to be the institutional memory. He's going to be the guy who's going to be able to say, 2 years ago, this is what was going on with this player, or this is what we, and that's going to be valuable, So I think that's a great hire, bringing him back.
Agreed.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the coaches before we move on?
I will have to do my research on the Clayton Adams before I can give any type of educated opinion on that. But
you and me both.
Last thing I'll say about Nick Rollis, as the former star linebacker himself, and as the new defensive coordinator, I think he'll know well enough that we need to get rid of Billy Davis. So I think Nick Rollis is actually our savior. And I have no proof of this, but I think Billy Davis has been the curse all these years. So Nick Rollis is going to do the Lord's work and finally get us new linebackers coach.
Right. Randy Morrison saying, what's Rodgers' duties as assistant head coach? It's a good question. I don't have any experience inside, so I can only speculate, but it's probably a lot of prep for game plan install and dealing with a lot of logistical stuff. Do you have any other insights on that? I don't know. Yeah.
That's all I could come up with. I mean, he's been in the league a long time too. He's out of this group of young guys. He is the seasoned veteran of the coaching staff. So I've always assumed it was just game planning with Cliff, but I don't know. I don't know how it functions in their hierarchy.
Yeah. Granders are saying if the new general manager hired Gannon and let Gannon hires guys, this is the way it's done. None of this, the owner hires head coach and then at odds with the GM front office. I agree. You've got to have you've got to have synergy. You've got to have alignment between your GM and the coaches. And it just feels right. Like Austin Fort was hired by Bidwell, and Bidwell, everyone feared he was going to, kind of railroad us into having like Vance Joseph as a head coach or his guy. And you know what? I mean, Gannon was Austin Fort's guy. Clearly, he talked about how, he had met with him a year ago, and he let him hire his guy, and he waited, right, for his guy. And then we feared that he was going to, insist, was he going to insist that Vance Joseph say, or that he hires a veteran coordinator, for his offensive defensive coordinator. And he's clearly letting him pick his guys. Petzing and Rallis are guys that he coached with in Minnesota. He's picking his guys. The guy that, we just talked about, the offensive line coach, Clayton Adams from Indianapolis. I'm assuming, again, Jonathan probably coached with him there. So yeah, Salty is saying, I give Bidwell credit for that, right? He's doing what we listen. I know Bid will continue to take some heat this offseason as things went on, but since the season ended, aside from new uniforms and maybe, not increasing the ticket prices, because that he took some fire, but in terms of personnel moves and organization moves, he's done pretty much everything that the majority of fans have wanted. He, people feared he wouldn't move on from the coach and GM because of the contracts. He moved on from them. People feared he wouldn't pursue the big name coaches. He pursued Sean Payton, and Sean Payton chose Denver. People feared he would promote from within. He didn't for his GM or his coach. People feared he would not let his GM pick his coaches. He's let him. People feared he'd saddle, all this stuff. I think Bidwell, dude, I've said this before. He pays attention to what people say. He pays attention to fan opinions, and he's trying to get better. He doesn't mean he's going to get everything right. So yeah, I think he deserves some credit. Ben Cork's asking, is Petzing going to call plays too? Absolutely. Our head coach, Jonathan Gannon, is a defensive coach, so I can't imagine he would bring in an offensive coordinator who is not going to be calling the plays. So he's going to be absolutely calling the plays, right? So, and then, Moore's Legacy, Adams agreed to leave Indy for Arizona. So there's just a lot of good things, right? We got Red C in here. Thanks for being here. For a reminder, everyone, nearly 40 people, only 10 likes. Come on, this won't do. Smash that like button. That really helps with the algorithm, helps people find our community, right? So yeah, a couple other comments about Adams, then we'll move on. Okay, Clayton Adams previously worked from 2013 to 2015 with Colorado University as running back tight end coach. 2016, 2017, Colorado University O-line coach. 2018 as co-offensive coordinator and O-line coach. Okay. Simon saying Adams seems to be respecting coaching offensive line. Current Stanford and O-line run game coordinator. Helped Jonathan Taylor have his breakout season. Interesting. Sports Hero, thanks for being here. I'm getting here late. Is Clayton Adams any good? We're learning about him. It sounds like he is. Right. And Salty, thanks for smashing like. Appreciate that. Listen, with most of these these position coaches and coordinators, you don't know a lot about them. You're just hearing what you're hearing. I'll tell you what, though, I'm Jonathan Gannon is earning my trust as a guy who's finding smart coaches and is able to get them to come here when they have other options. So listen, until he gives me a reason not to trust him, I'm going to keep trusting him and Austin Fort, right? Jordan P saying Adams has been mostly a college coach, which, listen, with a coordinator, that's fine. You don't want your head coach to be that, or I should say with a position coach. If they've been good in college, let them get a job as a position coach here. That's how they work their way up, right? So, Randy's saying the only other coach I'm really interested in, quarterback coach. I'm curious as well. So, all right. So let's get on to a couple other things before we get to the mock drafts. There was a really interesting article. Peter King. If you don't know Peter King, he's the OG sports writer. He's been writing forever, and he writes an epic article every week. It's long as all get out. It ends with a haiku. It meanders into all kinds of places, but he's really respected writer. And he interviewed Jonathan Gannon, and there were some really interesting tidbits that came out in that. I tweeted this one out. But here he was, Peter King asked him, Kyler Murray's been a little bit of a polarizing figure. How did the figure how did he figure into you taking this job? And I think Gannon's answer, it's not surprising because we've heard him say good things about Kyler and his excitement for working with Kyler. But I think this obviously perked up my ears because I'm been a supporter, a defender of Kyler. But Gannon said, if Kyler Murray isn't here, I don't take this job. Like that's the headline, right? For as much as people said, who's going to want to work with Kyler, right? Well, a creative coach who was with a team that did some awesome stuff with Jalen Hurts wants to come here and replicate that here or do some version of it that's better suited to Kyler, right? Then he goes on to say, I think this offense will look much different. This guy does things that it completely handcuffs you how you play defense at times. I think we can take him to another level and unleash his full skill set. We're not going to put him in the gun all the time. I'll tell you that. Shots fired at Cliff and his offense, right? We'll have two significant offenses with his skill set, one being under center and one being in the gun. Then obviously we're going to do what's comfortable with him. The way to take pressure off the quarterback and the O-line is to put him under center at times. That's the missing piece I thought they had with Kyler. They were in gun all the time. When you're in gun all the time, you don't make the defense defend certain play types. Now, when you get him under center, the defense has to defend a lot more types of plays. So there's really two offenses I see us using. All right. Thoughts, Kyler?
I mean, I tweeted out that I was crying happy tears when I saw this morning. This is the Kyler under center thing has been the debate for a long time. And I saw Darren Urban report today that the Cardinals ran gun 92% of the time in 2022. And yes, there's a lot you do out of the gun these days. It is a thing. But just not having the component of under center just blew so many fans' minds. It's such a critical part of the game for 31 other teams. And Cliff Kingsbury just seemed to think that he was going to be the exception to not have to use this. And I've heard the arguments that this was a comfort thing, that Kyler Murray isn't comfortable under center. So Cliff basically just kicked it out of the playbook completely. And if that is the case, then it's going to be even more interesting to see how Gannon and his offensive coordinator and his quarterback coach approach that type of situation with their franchise quarterback and making him do something that he's not 100% comfortable with. Because, I mean, that's the job. Kyler Murray isn't a kid anymore. He's growing into an adult, and he's a very talented football player. But even talented football players don't always only get to do what they're most comfortable with. So I'm interested to see how Gannon's going to navigate that. If there's truth to that, who knows? We don't know the inside working of things, but Kyler Murray seems like the bootleg, the play action guy, and you can't really run much play action unless you get under center. So if that's something that can unleash those abilities of Kyler that I think we've all seen and we want to see him do because he seems like the perfect quarterback to do it, then I would love to see what an offense looks like with some of those more traditional offensive sets. And I think, our favorite Arizona guy, Ron Wolfley, is probably like doing shots tonight because he's always wanted Kyler under center. And he talks about it all the time. So I think he's very happy, and I'm happy. Gannon is saying in this and everything else that he said about Kyler Murray, he's saying the exact right things.
Yeah. And I see the comments in here, that this isn't going to happen, whatever. He's not going to be playing till he's recovered from that. And, and I see, Kyler spoke about how being under center puts him in a disadvantage briefly in a press conference. I think Cliff just took it up since Kyler preferred. Now, listen, I don't agree that's why it was that I think he was primarily out of there because that's more Cliff's offense. Maybe the fact that Kyler liked it maybe influenced that some, but I don't get the sense that Gannon is a guy who's just going to cave to that, if that is the deal. I think Gannon has said what he's going to do, and he's going to do it, and he's going to convince Kyler and sell Kyler on why this is going to work. And he's going to show him how it worked, with other quarterbacks. And I would be shocked if we're back in a situation where it's like 90% shotgun. I just doesn't seem likely. So I see all the cynicism. And I have to wonder, like Kyler saying that, how much of that is him even kind of like defending the decision as an offense to do that? Sometimes that happens, but I think Gannon means what he says. We'll see, right? We'll see. But I think we're gonna see this happening. He seems very committed to that. So I think that's a great direction. A couple other folks I want to say hi to that dropped in here. Ian Keller, we're gunning with Gannon, right? Gannon Hall, right? You could tell he had feelings for Kyler by the way he perked up when Bidwell told him Kyler was in the building, and the way he ran toward him and embraced him. It was cool, right? Yeah, that video is obviously really left an impact, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this, right? And then, Jordan says, I agree. Gannon won't cave into Kyler saying he doesn't prefer something if he knows it works, right? And I really, I just, again, I know people think that, Kyler is some sort of petulant child who's going to pout. And I've often said I don't buy that. I think he's going to come in and he's going to work with Gannon. And I think Gannon's going to convince him. So, yeah, I'm not worried. Yeah, in retrospect, Cliff was really bad. No adjustments going from the gun. Once you figured it out as offense, it was over. And that's the thing worried me, right? So, okay, there's another quote in here, though, I want to get to that I think is also, it goes back to something we were talking about before. But, Peter King says, sounds like you were ready to leave, but it wasn't easy, talking about leaving Philadelphia. And Gannon said, I love Philly. I love Mr. Lurie, owner Jeffrey Lurie. I love Howie Roseman. I love Nick Sirianni. They came back and they were like, here's a new offer. It's going to pay you more than being a head coach. That's cool. And I loved it there, but I wanted to be a head coach. And I was excited about this because of Mr. Bidwell, Michael, as he would say, GM, Monty Austinfort, and Kyler. Again, like that narrative of no one wants to be here. Now, maybe he's just saying the right things, but like he turned down more money, right? He could have gone back to Philadelphia, earned more money, got another year there, and hit the job cycle next year. But he chose here. So again, it's another thing that just these are good signs. They need to start. They need to get the team right. They need to do it on the field. Absolutely get that, right? But these are kinds of positive signs we haven't seen here in a long time. Thoughts on that?
I'm very curious how much money they offered him now. If it was more than a head coach for a defensive coordinator, I mean, that's great. I'm glad that he was really respected there. And yes, you can argue that saying that is about pumping himself up to be like, hey, I'm self-sacrificing. I gave up more money to come here. But I think for most people in that position, it's kind of a no-brainer too. Like there are 32 head coaching positions in the league, and what's the likelihood that you're ever going to reach that? And if you stay a coordinator, you might not ever get back to that head coaching conversation even. So I think for an ambitious guy like him, it made absolute sense to be the head coach at the last team that even had a head coaching position open this cycle. But I do definitely tend to buy into the authenticity of Gannon so far. I haven't seen anything so far that makes me think he's not a genuine person. And he has an opportunity here, and he has a relationship with Monty, and he has to respect him on some level to take the job. And just the amount of times that he has double, triple, quadrupled down on Kyler Murray as a franchise quarterback. And, I'm excited to be here. I want to take this job without him, because how many head coaches get to walk into a position where they've got like the guy? Yeah. And even teams this cycle, other than whatever you want to say about Russell Wilson in Denver, but like Jonathan Gannon's colleague, Shane Steichen, going into Indy, he has arguably a tougher job coming up with not knowing what Indy's going to be doing at quarterback. Yeah. Gannon gets to walk into this with a obviously talented guy who needs to be brought up to his potential and made more consistent and all that, but he's still got the guy for the first 3 years of his career, we all considered him to be more talented than Jalen Hurts. Like on a pure talent level, Kyler Murray, I still think has more talent than Jalen Hurts. But Philly turned Jalen into something incredible this year.
Yeah.
And he played lights out. So if he thinks that he can unlock that and unlock the whatever they did to Jalen Hurts to turn him into a monster this year, then I believe him. I believe that he believes it.
Yeah. But yeah, a couple other comments real quick. Dakota Bedard saying, I do like the new coach. Also, rather have a 50-year-old coach. So, and I think they're gonna add some veteran position coaches and kind of assist, maybe even someone to be an assistant head coach or something. So, but yeah, I think we're going to see some more veteran coaches added. Jason with the super chat. Thank you so much, Jason. What's up, Joe? Just stopping by. I'm excited. Jason, appreciate your support. Jason's a longtime supporter and always comes up big with the super chats. Appreciate you being here. There's a lot of excitement. Thank you so much. Really sincerely appreciate that, Jason. Ben Cork saying very excited for the draft, free agency. I wonder what percent of the team will be different. Quite a bit, probably, right? Saltiest brings a point. If the Eagles offered him more to stay, are the Cardinals paying him pennies? I mean, it's, I don't know.
That too.
Yeah, I wonder. I wondered they offered him. Maybe, who knows? And he might have also used that to leverage more pay out of. I hope for Jonathan Gannon. He took that counter offer from the Eagles to Mr. Bidwell, to Michael, and said, "All right, I got this on the table." And Michael Bidwell said, "Okay, I'll match it or better." Right, but who knows, right? Mm-hmm. That's behind the scenes, but yeah. So I don't know. So let's want to say hey to Payo Time. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Hello. I think this opening presser was boring. Let the cards eat. Okay, there we go. Right. So yeah. Okay. So a couple other things. In fact, someone commented, wondering, right, wondering what the draft will look like under Ossenfort, Lance said here. And that's a great segue. If you didn't see it, I posted a video a couple days ago that looked at, or was it even yesterday? It was recently. Anyway, Monty Ossenfort's draft strategy. And what I did is I looked at the time that he was with the Patriots as the assistant director of scouting and the director of scouting, and then his time as director of player personnel with the Titans. And I looked at the draft patterns there, and I put together kind of what a chart that I'm sort of calling like a heat map. Now, I will, if anyone saw my comment in on the video, I actually in the video made a mistake. This is the Patriots one, and this is the one I used in the video. This should have been what I used. This is the one that's the Titans and Patriots. I still think this is relevant because the Patriots are where most of his influence comes from. But this is sort of like a heat map of what rounds and what positions the Patriots took from 2011 to 2019 when Monty Ossenfort was in the front office. And I think this is very instructive to give us an idea of what he's going to do. And we won't spend a ton of time here, but you see they take running backs a lot on day 2. They took Sony Michel late in round 1, but really on day 2, they like them there. They like to take a quarterback like Brissett and Garoppolo kind of on day 2, early 3. They really like getting linebackers late in 6th round. They got 5. They took 5 of them there. They like taking edge rushers in the 3rd round. Interior offensive linemen, they don't take them until 3rd or 4th, and a lot in the 4th round. So cornerbacks, they like taking them in the 2nd round and then the 7th round. So it's just some interesting patterns here. Yeah, it looks like a minesweeper game, right? I like it. Yeah. So, this is just something that I think is interesting. And this has influenced my mock drafts, right? In terms of trying to emulate that a little bit. And then when you add the Titans picks, it expands it a little bit. Right. So anyway, if I encourage you to watch that video. I won't spend a lot more time on it, but I think it's interesting to give us some ideas of what positions he might address at certain points in the draft. So if you haven't had a chance to watch the video, check it out. But we're going to get on to doing some stuff, actual mock draft money type stuff, right? There's been a lot of Cardinal stuff to talk about. And one of the things I like to do is I like to profile a prospect. Usually someone who's not a 1st round prospect. I try to go days 2 and 3 to help us learn about prospects and, players that I think might be interesting fit for the Cardinals. And this week, I'm going with right tackle Dwan Jones out of Ohio State. He's 21 years old, senior, 6'8", 350. He's a big dude. Projected as day 2, might be early on day 2, like early second round. So, he's a very talented right tackle. He grades out really well, in the 80s last 2 years. Grades pretty well across the board. You can see he's been a right tackle last 2 years, which is something we need. But there's something that really stood out to me, right? Yeah, Jordan Payne, Dwan Jones stats are unreal, right? But here's what got my attention, okay? This is another thing they give you his profile, what he wins, but this is what got me. He has to be put in a certain role, but in that, he could be dominant. If you have a mobile quarterback, this is the guy you want at right tackle. All right. That got my attention, right? Because obviously, Kyler Murray, right? A mobile quarterback, right? So I think, and yeah, Drew's mentioning Darnell Wright and Jones are the 2 best right tackles. And a lot of people think Darnell Wright is the best right tackle. So he'd be a great guy to get as well. Love getting either of these guys. But that just kind of got my attention, right? So obviously, with Kelvin Beachum, I think most fans think and hope he'll move on. I think he's been better than some fans want to give him credit for, but he's a budget kind of value veteran. And, it would be nice to bring in someone young and who has more upside. So for me, when I look at that, yeah, Dwan Jones, right tackle out of Ohio State, seems like a guy I'd be really interested in potentially taking some, in round 2. What are your thoughts on looking at right tackle in round 2?
I mean, I think that's great. Kelvin Beachum just most likely is not going to come back.
Yeah.
He is a free agent, right? We could re-sign him on another 1-year deal, but I think his time is probably at an end with us. And right tackle is a big position of need. Regardless of what you think of DJ Humphries, he is the left tackle. And when he's at his best, he's really good, actually. He's just a little inconsistent still, but right tackle is huge need. And I mean, I don't know anything about Dwan Jones. So like my disclaimer at the beginning, I am woefully uneducated about most of these players. But my initial thought would be, he goes to a big school. He's played top tier competition. He is a giant. 6'8" is even for an offensive line is pretty crazy tall. But good weight, great weight. It's definitely a position of need. Are you thinking round 2? I mean, I saw that he was 44 on the PFF big board. So round 2?
Here's what I'm thinking. I still think there's a good chance that the Cardinals trade back out of 3 and get a second, end up with another pick on day 2. So I could see them, having 2 second-round picks and him being one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I totally love it.
Yeah.
If this entire draft was just defensive linemen and offensive linemen, I would be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of comments. Let me hit some of the comments and some of the folks that have been here. Thanks for being here. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We got Moore's Legacy, keep Baker or move on with that staff fraud. Okay. Yeah. He's talking to Peo, the Rams fan. Andrew Bradford, thanks for being here. What are your thoughts on assistant GM David Sears coming from Detroit and their scouting personnel? Great question. I'm hearing rave reviews. I'll let you though jump in first. Are you hearing anything?
That's all I've heard too. I've only heard good things, and I think he has a similar talent evaluation background as Monty in terms of hitting well on offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So I think we're just stacking our personnel side with people who know how to draft the O-line. Both of them have had success at it, and Detroit had success with Penei Sewell. That's a great pick. He's going to be a solid tackle for a decade plus, probably.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything bad about him.
I've heard, people, there was a report that scouts are saying, and the people in the front office are saying they've learned more, recently than they had in years, and that he's really impressing people, and he was part of what they were doing in Detroit. So I like it. Excited about that for sure. I think he's gonna, it's just a good staff getting put together. Garrett Coker, I just made it in time. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Jordan P. Fun fact. Jones has the longest wingspan in Senior Bowl history. Yeah. Lance, does it need to be said, or is everyone thinking? I'm thinking 5'7" quarterback, 6'8", right? Okay. Come on, Lance. I know you don't like Kyler. I know you don't like Kyler Murray, but he's 5'10". At least be fair, all right? But listen, I will say though,
1/8.
Right. But I will say, I do, when I look at offensive linemen, I do look at their height, and listen, Dwan Jones, if he's that talented, I think still, look to make it work. But I do, sometimes I do look for, well, is there a guy who's a little bit shorter, right? I hate to say it, but I do look at that, right? But listen, if this guy's really good, then they'll make it work, right? I'm KT Bongo. Thanks for being here. Burd. Right. Saltiest Gaming doesn't want to trade third pick. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of, it's very split on that. I like trading back. That's just always been who I am. And I know the Patriots did a lot, so I think it might be happening, but hey, what are we going to do? We got It's Your Boy. Thanks for being here. Second round picks coming from D-Hop trade. Could be. I mean, we'll see what happens, right? Jordan P. saying Dwan Jones, 91.5 run blocking grade last 2 seasons. Highest in the NCAA for tackle position. So love that. Jason, again, thanks for the super chat again. It starts with the trenches to be successful, to be honest. Completely agree. They got to fix that offensive line and defensive line. And that's a great thing. Monty Austin has a history of that. And I know Decimus here loves Decimus here has commented on my videos and stuff, and the theme that he always comes back to is fixing the trenches. So I know Decimus definitely agrees with that in terms of got to fix the trenches. I really like Beacham, but I'd like to get away from dependence on the health issues on the older guys like Pugh and Hudson. Yeah. Oh, it is funny. He was the only guy who didn't miss a game on our offensive line was the old man Beacham. But I do agree. Go for, we want to get some younger guys in there. Hey, Jose, thanks for being here. Hello, Joseph. Salute. Appreciate you being here. Any prior injury for Dwan Jones? Foot problems, back problems? Not that I know of, but maybe if anyone has any insight, but I haven't heard anything. We got Devin Nash. Thanks for being here. Do you think Zimmer will join the Cards? I think there's a chance, right? I mean, he's been linked to them. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think there's a good chance. We saw, who was it? Jim Caldwell. He's going to be a senior advisor type of position in Carolina. Is that right? One of the teams, one of the new staffs. So I think there's as good a chance as any that we get. I've seen Mike Zimmer and I've seen Munchak kind of thrown out there as older influences that Gannon's had, but Zimmer's like a big defensive influence on Gannon, and he worked under him in Minnesota. So I would have loved him as defensive coordinator, but I think just getting him in the building, he has previous head coaching experience. He's a great defensive mind and has been for a long time. So I would love to have him in the building.
There's a connection in the history there. So I think there's a good chance, right? So yeah, I think so. Right. So I know there's some other comments and questions, but I want to get, so we're not here for 7 hours tonight. I want to kind of get us going, but anyway, so we got Dwan Jones. That's the profile for this week. There's a lot of interesting, I think things about him to like, but okay. Let's get to your mock draft, Kyler. All right. I'm going to pop this up here and let you talk about your rationale and thought process for this mock. What were you thinking, dude?
I will tell you my thought process, but I'm going to rely heavily on reading the comments on the right-hand side. So be nice. You guys say something, if you say something really insightful about one of these prospects, I will steal it and I will pretend that I came up with it. But I did not do any trades. Partially because I think we stick with number 3. It's just such a primo pick. It's hard for me to justify giving up what most likely is going to be a can't-miss player even on a ton of picks. So, but that again is just me. I know Monty Osfort is the Patriots, and they have a history of doing that. So, totally reasonable. But also, I don't trust PFF's trade logic. If you can get the PFF mock draft to accept some wild trades. So, I didn't mess with that. I pick what we've got. And I start with who came to me. Was Will Anderson Jr. He was right there at 3. And I think in mine, I think Jalen Carter went 1. And then there's a quarterback that I can't remember, CJ Stroud maybe. And Will Anderson was there at 3. I take him. I am fully with PFF in this one. That is an A+ grade for me. I just don't think you can possibly miss with Will Anderson. He's so unbelievably dominant. His college tape is stupid. His comps are Von Miller and some of these greats that we've seen over the past decade. If he is there at number 3, he is the one that I think you run to the board and you take him as a piece of your defense for hopefully the next decade.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see my theme. I've got 2 edges. I've got 2 interior defensive players. I've got 2 guards because in my mind, 2023, I don't think it's a sell year completely. But I think it's like a building year.
Yeah.
You are going to most likely be missing your franchise quarterback for a while. How long that is, it could be up to like half a season.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily go into it expecting we're going to win 12 or 13 games, but you want to set the foundation. And if you can use this draft where the expectations are not playoff Super Bowl necessarily, use this draft to be building the lines and building those foundations of both sides. You can use the next draft to draft some of those fancier, flashy offensive picks that are going to help Kyler Murray out when he's hopefully back fully healthy and everything. So I'm not going to spend any more time with Will Anderson because he's just not much to be said about him. That hasn't been said about him. He's just remarkable. Well, but number 2.
Yeah, Pete Trapek has a comment here on your second pick. I threw that up there. Osiris the Virus had like 0 career sacks against. I want him badly.
See, I'm going to pretend like I knew that, Pete
me too. Yeah. I mean, everybody knows that. No, I didn't know that. But yeah, I probably saw it somewhere. But yeah, that's a great stat, right? And where was he playing, right? Beautiful. In the SEC, right?
Exactly. I know he came he was originally in the Sun Belt, I think, like Louisiana Lafayette. And then this last season he transferred to Florida. So say what you will about the transfer process in college these days. I like that he's played at 2 vastly different levels of college football. I mean, I went to New Mexico State when we were in the Sun Belt. It's kind of a lower level of college football, especially compared to SEC, which is the closest to NFL type competition that you're going to get in college football. And he's still played incredibly well in the SEC. He's got the lower body strength. Like, he's a huge anchor. He's 6'5", 345. He's huge. And what I love the most about him is the run game stuff that I've seen. I think coming from that Philly offense that relies a lot on the run, a lot on the interior run, that's going to be huge. And he's just been a completely dominant run game guy for a long time. I do think he kind of comes up a little bit short in the pass protection. So that's not great, but he's still an SEC top tier interior offensive lineman. So I'm not going to knock him too much for that. And I'm seeing a lot of good Osiris picks here. I think I hit that one out of the park.
Yeah,
I think some y'all like that one.
He could go in the first round. So if he's there, that's a great pick.
Yeah. He is not as clear cut as Will Anderson, but I think for this list, he's the second most. He's great. He went to Florida. It's unlikely he's going to be bad.
Yeah. Real quick.
I don't think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, Red C's saying about your defensive interior lineman, 2 nose tackles. And then he says, I mean, if Zach Allen moves on, then it makes sense. But Dexter and Ben seem like overkill is one of the 2 will just end up as a rotational piece, though a 4th rounder who's part of the rotation. So I don't mind it at all. I think especially with the kind of fronts that Gannon's going to play, there's room for those guys, right?
See, and that is my entire rationale behind it. Is Jonathan Gannon is not going to be running a straight 3-4 or straight 4-3. He mixes up his fronts so much that, I think there's plenty of playing time for all the talented defensive linemen that you could possibly get. I mean, look at Philly's front 7 lineup from this past year. It was stupid. It was all the big names of the last 10 years, even though they're kind of aging and getting, towards the end of their careers, whatever. They signed them as free agents, and they took all of them.
Yeah.
They had big, big names on that defensive line, and they all got playing time, and they all got their due. So I think the way he runs his defense, you can't have too many. And I don't think Lucky Fotu's working out.
Yeah. Well, that's a position where you want a rotation, guys. You go back to the Giants and their Super Bowl runs, like they had that defensive line that they had bodies that kept it healthy, right? Or kept it fresh.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's my reasoning with the Keanu Benton, who I know like the tiniest bit about. So that was a semi-informed pick. But the Gervon Dexter, I don't know as much. I guess I saw him in some of the same games that I saw Osiris Torrance in. But yes, I did focus just strategically there on big body nose tackles.
Yeah.
Because I think Jonathan Gannon is just going to have a use for them. I think he's going to find a way. And if Rashard Lawrence can get healthy, if you can manage to hold on to Zach Allen, and then you can draft Keanu Benton, which is probably a starter, and Gervon Dexter, who's good rotation, along with keeping Lucky Fotu for the last year of his rookie deal, I think.
Yeah.
You've got the rotation that you need. You can work with that.
Yeah, Pete Treepack loves Jalen Jones. They're in the 3rd round, which it's a deep cornerback class. So that seems like a really good pick.
It is a deep cornerback class. It's way different than last year's cornerback class that I remember. Jalen Jones, I've seen him play at Texas A&M. I know he has some knocks on like the stiffness of his hips and moving along with stuff like that, but he has the pedigree. He's played the zone and man stuff that you're going to see with Gannon, and he's just tall. Like, he's long, he's physical. I think he has a lot of potential, but I've seen him slowly move down the boards for some reason. So he came to me with that second pick in round 3. A lot of the big boards he started off during the end of the college season, like end of round 1, early round 2. So if we can steal him there, I think even PFF kind of notices that. They gave me an A- for it. Thank you.
Yeah. But you know what? I think where's the comment? There's a comment here that I got to put up here. No center, Kyler. Tisk. Where's your center, dude?
You know the man that we all want on this.
The man that we all want? Who could that possibly be? I don't know. That guy?
That man right there. Of course I want him. He doesn't come to me in this draft.
Robert, is your son watching, Robert Moore? Because
John Michael, he's our center Schmitz. His name's on my draft too. No matter what they say, this mock is A-okay. It's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
Your mock is not A-okay, Kyler. It does not have John Michael Schmitz.
He didn't come to me. I think in mine he went late in the 1st.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
what?
Man.
No John Michael Schmitz worst draft ever, right? John Michael Schmitz or bust, right?
I was wondering if I was gonna get that.
We are a friendly bunch around here, but if you mess with the JMS, right? That's what's up, right? I know. No, but in all seriousness, I think what happens is they take in this scenario, they're taking a free agent center, right? They're signing a free agent at center, right? So no, which I think they might still do that, even if they draft someone, right?
Like in my situation here, I think you do have to get a free agent center. Torrance takes the left guard spot from Justin Pugh, and re-sign Will Hernandez is what I would do for the interior. And I took Emil Ekiyor from Alabama in the 5th. Not really because I know anything about him, but just because I know the past of the New England Patriots taking offensive linemen in like the 4th, 5th, kind of those middle rounds, and they hit on a lot of them. So we could
wherever they take, there's going to probably be good.
Yeah, so he might be fabulous, and I could definitely see them taking another offensive lineman. I went him just because he was the best option I had left there. I wanted a right tackle, but there in round 5, I just wasn't finding one that seemed reasonable. And I doubled up with edge as well, with Dylan Horton from TCU, and he from Alabama. Okay,
you're going to have to try to pronounce the cornerback.
The cornerbacks. I believe that is Caliph.
Okay.
Halassi?
I don't know, but I have to try to pronounce my names, so you have to try to also. And I think there are people in the audience who enjoy seeing us suffer trying to pronounce the names.
I'm sure, yeah. Oh. And I took him just because the Patriots took a lot of cornerbacks late in the 7th. So that seems like the reasonable flyer pick. Is that 7th round cornerback. I almost went halfback, but I just couldn't justify that. I don't think we need one at this point.
I think we need one earlier. I think we need a halfback. We need someone to work with James Conner. So this is where I'm as much. In fact, I think that's a more important admission than the center, because center you can get a free agent. You can get a free agent running back, but there's so much value to the draft, the rookie contracts, and you can find good running backs, and how, you don't really want older running backs. So I feel like what you need, right now you've got Keontae Ingram and James Conner and Corey Clement. Okay. He had a few moments, but I think we need a halfback in there. I'm usually taking one in rounds 3 or 4. So I take umbrage with that.
Okay. Hey, we all have.
We're here to learn, though, right?
we're here to learn. You don't think we're gonna re-sign? What's his name? Williams?
Maybe.
Another year?
Maybe, but I think we still need to bring in someone else, and I would rather go with a shift. Yeah, we need a shifty change of pace back, one who's dynamic. We need a speed halfback. There's some good running backs in this draft that I like. I would much rather use like a 4th round pick on one for me.
Yeah, there was a TCU name that kept popping up.
Yeah.
And I could have taken him deep into the 6th. Miller. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Kendre Miller. I take him a lot.
Yeah.
That's the guy I
saw that name. I thought about it. I did. I thought about it in the 5th where I took Ekiyor.
Well, you'll think about it long and hard next time, won't you, Kyler?
Well, I will. Yeah, I will now.
I know. I know we want to get you out of here on time. Overall though, seriously though, I like a lot of these picks. So as much as we're giving you some guff, obviously Anderson, Torrance, love him. I like Benton and Dexter. I think that's good. Jones is a great pick there. I like what you did here. I would do a few things differently. I'd get a halfback in there somewhere and a center, but you only have so many picks. You can't address everything. But overall, I think this is good. Let me quick. We're gonna go through my mock draft, then we'll get you out of here.
Yes. Please.
Red Sea is already, his head's exploding. Corey's head he's just losing his stuff right now because of what I did here. I traded back a couple times to add picks, and yes, I went Tyree Wilson. I know Corey hates Tyree Wilson with a passion of 1,000 burning suns. I think he's he needs some development, but he's got some tools. I traded back, got a boatload of picks, and I got him to be, he's a toolsy kind of edge, bigger edge to be part of that defense. And then I also got Kalijah Cansey, who I don't know, when I look at his profile, he gives me like mini Aaron Donald vibes. He's a little bit of a smaller interior defensive lineman who is disruptive.
And he's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to be as good, but he has that kind of skill set, or he's that type of player, right? In terms of, that interior defensive lineman who's twitchy and really good. So like, I think those two pieces, Jonathan Gannon would do something really, really nice with them. Corey's so lucky I'm at work would be cussing up a storm otherwise. Jordan P loves Kalijah Cansey. So I traded back and I got Kalijah Cansey to Tyree Wilson for that defensive line. Then I got Torrance like you did. Got Dwan Jones, right? The guy that I profiled earlier. Then I got a cornerback, right, in round 3. Then I got Kendra Miller, right? The guy that you talked about who I love there. Then a receiver who I really like, A.T. Perry. I watched a video, Brett Coleman talking about him. He's a really interesting, mature, good route running receiver. So I really like this. Then I got Kobe Turner, guy I profiled before. So I get another guy on the interior defensive line to kind of be disruptive. Got Olusegun Owatimi, the center from Michigan. I practiced that name. Then I got Braden Daniels, a tackle out of Utah, who might size-wise maybe move inside. But another one of those late-round developmental offensive linemen. Got D. Winters, a linebacker of TCU. And the reason I took him in part is because he's a guy they met with at, I think it was, I don't know if it's the Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, at one of the bowls or whatever it was. They met with him. They were linked to him. And then, again, the Patriots always took linebackers late. So I went with Savosia Dennis. And I do think this team's going to need some linebacker additions with the defense they're going to run in addition to the guys they've got. So that's kind of what I went with. I got a bunch of different picks. Yes, I traded back. I know some people don't like doing that, but I like trading back. I love the players at 3, but I like what you can do when you stockpile some of these picks. I mean, look, I know it's Will Anderson isn't there, but you got Tyree Wilson, a guy you can develop. You got Kalijah Cansey on the inside, Torrance and Dwan Jones on the offensive line. I mean, just lots of really good players I like here, right? So, that's kind of what I did there. And then, let's see. So let's see. Trade back multiple times, babe. He likes that. Great. Trade back likes it. Great mock show. I love the Eli Ricks pick at an A.T. Perry. Thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, this is kind of what I did here. Jason, thanks for the super chat. Anything better than Time Draft picks? I'm excited, right? 100%, right? So anyway, this is what I did. I wanted to illustrate both. All right, when I want to feature things when I do my mock drafts, I wanted to feature Dwan Jones. And I also wanted that chart I did in the video, I kind of used that. I didn't stick to it rigidly, but I kind of went with it in terms of, they what picks they take in certain rounds, and taking linebackers late. So I use it as a general guide. So anyway, that's what I did there. Robert Moore, balanced draft, not a fan of the double linebackers. I will say when you're taking linebackers there, you're probably also looking at guys that are going to be special teams contributors. It's late on day 3. So, I think those plays, it's not as big of a deal if you kind of develop up on stuff like that. But yeah. Anyway, that's kind of what I did there. I know we got to get you out of here, but do you have any thoughts you want to throw in on this mock before we get you out of here?
Yeah, I think that this still falls well into line with the strategy that I laid out of 2023 is your put together talent and put together the base of a team that can actually compete in 2024. I love that you not only traded down, you doubled down and you traded down again.
There was a quarterback there and someone traded up for it. I'm like, sure. And I got it, dude. And what I got 2 future. Or no, I got one. Did I get a future first round pick? Maybe I didn't. Never mind. I think I went all this year. But yeah, stockpile those picks, right?
I mean, still, 8 is still a good place to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Simmons at 8. I still think he has superstar potential. We'll see if he gets there.
Yeah.
And 18 is kind of a sweet spot in the first round too. I love that. And the underrated part of this, I think, in terms of team building, was 3 picks in the 3rd round. Because if you hit the 3rd round, that's building a team through the draft. Like your 2nd round picks, your 3rd round picks, those arguably, to me, are more important than your 1st round pick. Even if you get an elite talent in the 1st round, that's great. But if you get multiple picks in those key rounds where you're not trying to necessarily get the superstar, but you're just trying to get the depth and the role players and all of that, that's what builds a team through the draft. So as much as I love the idea of getting a blue chip, can't miss type of Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, this is a totally reasonable and probably totally honest, a more realistic way that someone with Monty Ossenfort's background is going to look at the draft.
That's the thing I keep coming back to. Patriots like trading back and accumulating day 2 picks. I hear people saying you don't pass up a blue chip prospect. I hear that. There are blue chip prospects later in this first round. We just don't know who they are. And if Monty can find them, right? And listen, it worked for the Patriots. I get that they had Tom Brady, but they found some nice players. It's worked for other teams. So I am not as resistant to trading back. It doesn't bother me as long as you've got as long as your front office can do the scouting right, which we're hoping and trusting Ossenfort can do. I like having a deep roster. So for me, I'm not as resistant to that, but I get the argument. Here's the deal. Realistically, you can build a good roster both ways. Staying put, like the Bengals did that with a lot of picks, right? And built some players over time, but you can also do a good job with this kind of, there's more than one way to build a good roster. So I know we want to respect your time and get you out of here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to stick around and go through the other mock drafts, but Marcos is telling us his son Jackson is waving hi to you guys. So Jackson, if you're watching, hi, I hope you're having a good night hanging out with your dad.
Hey, Jackson.
And Kyler, as we get you out of here, anything you want to shout out, pitch, or promote, and then we'll let you get out of here. And then I'm going to hang out and do the mock drafts that everyone submitted.
Awesome. This is fun. Mock Draft Monday. I know we do the TCR live stuff on Tuesdays throughout the season and stuff. And sometimes it's very painful because we have to talk about very painful things, like going 4-13. This is fun, You get to talk about the future that you make up. So that's awesome. You can have all the hope that you want. I really enjoy it. Nothing really to shout out other than just look down below at the AZSPORTS Underground. We've been pumping out a lot of good content lately. Our Twitter's been doing really well. So if you don't already follow us on Twitter, make sure that you do that. And just check back every day. Now, we have some fresh Arizona content just about every day. And it's not always about the Cardinals. We've got some Diamondback stuff going up, some Suns stuff as well. So I know a lot of you are fans of all the Arizona teams, and just hope that you'll consider us as one of your sources for some fan-made content about your favorite teams.
Awesome. Yeah. Some of the writers, Marcos is in here, Robert's in here, some other folks pop in here who write with us. So yeah. And obviously Kyler is our editor in chief and also writes with us. I am the creative director and co-founder. Put that on the business card. But yeah. Mock Draft Mondays for me. And I've said this before, it's the most fun thing I do on this channel. I love everything we do, but it is the most fun thing for me. It's a blast, right? So I appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll probably get you back here later in the off season. You know, I'm rotating folks in and out here so we can get a lot of folks hanging out with us. But Kyle, you have a great night, man. And we will talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Sounds good. Have fun, guys.
All right. So it's us now, folks. We're going to do the mock draft. So I want to, there's, you know, and thanks for everyone who's hanging out here. I can't keep up with all the comments. Jordan's got a question. He's responding to, you know, kind of the whole thing about where I traded back. Is the drop off of Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson worth it? And that's the question. And so the answer is going to depend on who you are. For me, here's what you look at though. Okay. I traded back twice, right? And in those trade backs, what I was able to pick up was picks 18. You know, obviously I got pick 8. Also picked up pick 18, 81, 44, and 113. Okay. So here's what it was. Instead of Will Anderson, I got Tyree Wilson, Kalijah Cansey. Okay. I also got Dwan Jones. Okay. And then let's see, 81 was Kendry Miller, and 113 was Lucian Oluwatimi. Okay. So here's what it was. What you're choosing between is Will Anderson and the the combination of Wilson, Cansey, Jones, Miller, and Oluwatimi. Now, you might still say I'd rather take Will Anderson, and I respect that. But I don't think it's a no-brainer one way or the other. Like you could take that you know, elite edge rusher, and if you do, great. Or you could take an edge rusher with elite tools who needs to be developed and might not be as good, but still could be good, plus an interior defensive lineman, Cansey, plus a starting right tackle, plus Kendry Miller, plus a potential starting center, right? If you know, so that's the trade-off, right? Now, is it an obvious? You might think it's obvious. I don't think it's. I think you can argue both ways. I like depth. I like building it right. So for me, that's the thought process. It's not just it's not you know, Anderson versus Wilson. It's Anderson versus Wilson, and in this case, like 4 other players that might be starters. So listen, I get it. You might still think Anderson that is worth more, but I don't. As I say, I don't think it's an obvious slam dunk. You go one where you can build a good roster both ways, right? So that's kind of the argument there, right? So anyway, all right, let's but alone at last, right? Hanging out. Okay. So let's look at your mock drafts. All right. That's what we're here for now. All right. We're hanging out. We're going to get to your mock drafts that you all submitted. I know there was a question in the comments below. Someone asked, how do you submit them? You know, you can submit them through Discord or Twitter. If you're not on either, I'd encourage you, join our Discord. It's just like there's a link below. There's Cardinals conversation all the time. It's a good group of people. It's a good place to hang out, right? So that's where you submit them, right? Jordan, say, yeah, by the drop off event, including all those players plus Wilson, can definitely argue both ways. Yeah, I don't think there's a definite right answer here. So yeah, but I appreciate the question, right? So let's get into your mock drafts though. And again, if I didn't get a comments to everyone from everyone, I apologize for that. Let's see. Jay's saying, oh, real quick, you got to check out some Charlie Jones tape. He's a receiver from Purdue, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken, he had a really high reception rate. I'll check that out. Thanks for the suggestion. Right. All right. So let's get into the mock drafts. And the first one that was submitted, Victor, here's your mock draft. Victor traded back and still got Will Anderson. I think most of us probably would agree that's probably not a realistic scenario, that it probably won't play out. I can't imagine it playing out that way. I think Will Anderson will be gone before then, but certainly if that happened, that's an A++. If that he falls in your lap there, that's huge, right? So I don't fault you for taking him. If he slipped in the simulator, you take him, right? So trading back and getting Anderson is a big win there. But we have talked about potentially it realistically happening. Let's say if we trade back to 4 and get, or even 5 maybe, and if the quarterbacks go early, right? But so getting Anderson and trading back is great. We got Torrance, who's been popular in these mock drafts tonight, right? So love that. Then we got Luke Whippler, one of the really good centers in this draft. Love that. Eli Ricks, cornerback, I think I had in my draft. Love that as well. Darius Rush, so you kind of went back-to-back cornerbacks, so you really fortified that position some. Then we got a couple defensive interior linemen in the 3rd and 4th round, Jacqueline Roy and Jerron Dexter Sr. So filling, getting, and I've said this a lot of times, but there's some really good depth of defensive interior line on day 2 and early day 3. So I love doing that, right? And then Rashawn Johnson, we are Rashawn Johnson fans around here. Rashawn Johnson Fire, right? He's one of 2 or 3 halfbacks that I often like to take in my mock. So I love that. Then we get an edge in the 4th round, KJ Henry. So kind of another guy that kind of develop and work in. We got a tackle, Luke Haggard, in round 5. So guy maybe becomes the right tackle or swing tackle. So like getting a tackle to develop there. Another cornerback. So you went with 3 cornerbacks here. Mekhi Gardner out of LSU. LSU puts out good cornerbacks. So if you're going to take one, that's a good place to take it. And then D Winters, who I took for who, as we had mentioned, had connected to the Cardinals report. So yeah, I think this is a really good draft. Obviously landing Will Anderson there is really great. Trading back and getting a arguably the best guard, one of the best center, right? I think across the board did really good. If it's me, I'm probably not taking 3 cornerbacks. That's just me. Don't think we have room on the roster for 3. They're probably going to keep 4 or 5 cornerbacks with, Marco Wilson, if they re-sign, Murphy, if they bring back Hamilton, which is maybe, but I think Christian Matthew, if they keep him around to try to develop him, I think you got room for maybe 2 cornerbacks. It's just my opinion. But that last guy might end up in the practice squad. But overall, I'm nitpicking here, but I think this is a really good mock draft. I like it a lot. All right. Next we have Chris Young, who's very active in Discord. And I don't know if I saw him in the chat tonight, but he's with us often. He traded back and also got Anderson at 5, right? So that would be, that would be great. Now, I'm trading back with Seattle, and I know I've saw a couple mocks that did that. I've even done it before, and people have talked about who would Seattle trade up for? Maybe they do trade up for a quarterback. I don't know how off, trading with a division rival like that. Not that it's impossible. I don't know how likely it is, but obviously, they're a team that has the picks you want to trade for, so people often do that trade. But anyway, trading back at Will Anderson, love it. We've got Osiris Torrance again and Whippler again. So we've got those 2 fixing that interior offensive line. We've got Keanu Benson, interior defensive lineman, like that. Tajay Spears, running back at Tulane. Guy grades really well. So like that. Got a safety, Brandon Joseph, in round 4. That's interesting. I think they should add a safety for depth. I feel like that, they've got 2 starting safeties plus whatever time Isaiah Simmons plays at safety. So I don't know if I would go safety that early. That's just me. I do take safeties later for depth. With safeties, it's a position 4th round. If you're drafting a safety in the 4th round, you're usually taking a shot on someone you hope will be a starter. But maybe, again, maybe I'm just nitpicking here. And that's more about position or draft, where in the draft you're taking the position than anything else. But defensive interior, Byron Young from Alabama. So shoring up those interior defensive linemen. Love that. Quarterback, Stetson Bennett. So getting kind of, developmental backup. And then we got a tackle later in the draft. I like that. And then wide receiver, Puka Nakua, that out of BYU. So, they like taking wide receiver, or Monty Austin Forth in his time with the Patriots. Patriots like taking receivers kind of late there. So I like that. Jordan P saying that Tajay Spears is underrated, right? So yeah. Robert saying, I like Chris Young's draft for one reason. Yeah, he likes it for one reason. I'm not sure what it is, but why is that? You have to tell me. The joke went over my head though. Okay, but good. I think this is a good one, right? yeah, this I think overall this is a really good draft. Though I think you hit the right positions we need, right, and stuff like that. Drew's saying I love Brandon Joseph. Hopefully Simmons never plays safety again. In my opinion, listen, I hope they play Simmons mostly at linebacker, maybe a little bit in the slot in different situations. So yeah. All right. Oh, Bennett, that's why. Okay, Stetson Bennett. He likes the quarterback. Okay. All right, there you go. All right. So yeah, Chris, good mock, man. I like it. Next, we have Red Sea. Oh, why is there no Tyree Wilson? You love him so much. All right, Corey's mock draft. At number 3, he hung in there and took Jalen Carter, which I could see them taking. The Monty. When I looked at the draft history, Monty Ossenfort, they took interior defensive linemen in the first round more often than they took edge rushers. They did take one. It was Chandler Jones in that time. So that doesn't mean they won't take him. But, when you look at the trends, that's an interesting thing to consider. And then he took Keyshawn Boot. Is it Booty? I don't know. Someone correct me on that. Wide receiver out of LSU in the second round. That's a guy who I need to learn. I need to look at him a little bit more because his grades aren't great. They're okay. His production isn't great, but I know a lot of people really like him. There's probably a reason for that. But I'd be interested to hear. I probably need to learn a little more about him. Darnell Wright, arguably the best right tackle in this draft. So like that there. He traded away Hopkins to the Chiefs, right, to add a couple picks round 2 and 3. Cam Smith, cornerback 3rd round. So we like getting, we like the cornerback depth. Isaiah McGuire, an edge in the 3rd round. So you didn't go edge in the 1st round, so you went edge later. So like that. Brandon Joseph going even earlier, 3rd. I guess maybe I'm missing out on Brandon Joseph. He must be that good that people are taking him early. Halfback Rashawn Johnson, we like him. Linebacker Ventrell Miller. So I do think they take a linebacker somewhere in day 3, probably. Tight end Cameron Latu. Again, going tight end late. I could see that for some depth. And then Jake Moody, kicker. All right. Red Sea. Good job, man. Yeah. I mean, there's no John Michael Schmitz, right? So it's not perfect. Yeah. And no center. That's a good point. Ugh, what's up with, I don't know, man. Maybe we need to have a talk with maybe you're losing your touch. I don't know. I'm sure I'll get a 4-paragraph essay on why he didn't take a center in Discord. He likes to give me that information. All right. Let's see. Here's what Drew Recorder's saying about Boot. I love him as long as Brian Kelly is never a coach and Jaden Daniels is never a quarterback. He's like a slightly shorter hop, good contested catch, good speed and rack ability. His red flags are maturity. Interesting. Okay. Good to know. I'll have to check out some more info on him. All right. We have Anthony Kennedy. I don't know if I've seen him in the chat, but I appreciate him submitting a mock. And if he's here, say hey. So interesting. We got a little bit of a spicy trade here. He traded Hopkins for Danielle Hunter, edge rusher, and a 4th round pick, mixing it up. That's interesting. Okay, with the Vikings. So we're adding a 4th round pick and an edge rusher, right? Okay. And then he took traded back as well. And then he got Jalen Carter. So we like that. JSN, one of the better wide receivers in this 18. So, receivers interesting one that we're not going receiver early much in our mock drafts, but I wouldn't mind adding a receiver. I just think there's other positions I think they're a little bit more of a need, but we like that. And then of course
it's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
All right, so we got JMS, right? So obviously it's a winner for that, if nothing else. Receiver Jalen Hyatt. Now that's an interesting receiver, right? So I like going receiver later than I do early in this draft, in particular. Then we've got halfback TJ Spears, who was in another mock draft. We've got guard Antonio Maffei, who also in that same podcast interview from Brett Coleman, where he talked about A.T. Perry, he also talked about Maffei as a really good late kind of guard prospect. So I really like that one. Charlie Jones, a receiver, I think that Jay was mentioning in the chat earlier. So we got 3 receivers. I think that's for all the needs that this team has other positions. For me, that's a lot of receivers to go this year. I'm not saying they don't need to add some receivers. I just think there's a lot of other positions I'm addressing first. If it's me, offensive line, I know you've got a couple, but defensive interior line, I'd get more. I'm addressing some other trenches a little bit more, but that's just my opinion. But I mean, I like the players. Then quarterback Jaron Hall out of BYU, right? So So yeah, I mean, there's some really nice players on here. It's an interesting strategy. Jordan P says, I don't see the Vikings doing that. Probably not, but listen, I always say I appreciate when people mix it up because we get a lot of redundancy in we start getting sort of patterns and some of that is because we know what the Cardinals need and things we're hearing, but it's nice to mix it up once in a while and see something different. So I appreciate that. Doc's card saying inside linebacker early and often. Am I right? Yeah. Is Doc's cards? Are you Steve Kimes' burner? Right. So anyway, yeah. On an aside note, that heat chart I did for Monty Austinfort and the Patriots drafting, I did one for Steve Keim as well that I shared on Twitter, and he had all these first round linebackers. Not surprising, right? So yeah. All right. So this is Steve Lime, right? Yeah. You put in the lime in your margarita, Steve. Ooh. All right. Maybe that was not nice. Okay. Anyway. All right. So Jordan P saying, I'm a fan of going 2 wide receivers in draft if we get extra picks. Nice D-Hop, mostly gone. Anderson, most likely gone. Get retired. Our Green retired, and Dortch and Wesley are free agency. Could be, yeah. Jose saying, we got Dortch, got to let him cook this year, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I talked about, I was on a guest on the No Butts About It NFL podcast. I shared some links to that in Discord on Twitter, so check that out if you haven't. But we talked about that, and it's not that I don't think they need to add some receivers at some point. I just look at this sort of rebuild, reset in stages, and right now it's the trenches and the defense in general, right? The offensive line, defensive line, and adding a few pieces on defense. They have, in my opinion, if they can get the offensive line right and the defense right, and maybe add a running back to that rotation, they have enough receiving playmakers to be effective. And then next year, once you fix a lot of those other places, then you upgrade those playmakers. That's for me how I would do it. Kind of building that way. You can't really fix everything in one offseason. You can make a lot of progress, but there's only so many draft picks, only so many free agents, you can bring in. So for me, receiver is something we fix next offseason going into 2024. That's just me. But yeah. But I do like taking at least one receiver in the draft. All right, next mock draft, we have Lance. Lance had a trade back, and he also took Tyree Wilson like me. So, he got some nice draft capital. Then he got Osiris Torrance, popular pick today. Linebacker Jack Campbell, who I know Lance really likes Jack Campbell. I think this team, again, probably is going to need another linebacker to work in the defense that Gannon is looking to bring in. I'd probably go a little later, but I wouldn't hate that, especially if they're going to be running 3 linebackers a lot. Keely Ringo at cornerback in the 3rd round. Loved that. Get a guy with the physical tools who just needs maybe a little bit of coaching up, right? Kobe Turner, love him, right, in the 3rd round. So get the interior defensive lineman. So love that. TJ Spears, again, popular pick tonight. Really good running back. So love that. Rashard Torrance, safety in round 5. So I like taking safeties a little bit later like that, for depth. So I like that. Another halfback out of Kansas State, Deuce Vaughn. So I've taken 2 running backs in a lot of my mock drafts. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Luke Schoonmaker, another depth tight end. Then DJ Dale, guy I like taking late a lot too, and it, kind of more of a run stuffer, but seems like a solid interior defensive lineman. And then we've got a fullback, Hunter Lipke, and they might need one, right? So yeah. So listen, I really obviously like Torrance pick a lot. I did the Wilson pick, so I don't got any problems with that as much as some people, don't like that, right? Red Sea's putting his essay together now, right, about this, right? Yeah. Just can't get away from Tyree, right? Drew saying, Lance, you and Joe are going to put me in an early grave taking 2023 Marcus Davenport, high upside raw guy in the top 10, higher than New Orleans Davenport, right? Yeah. Well, maybe there's part of me that just went with that Wilson pick because I knew it would just mess with a few folks, but love the Ringo pick. Love the Turner pick. Yeah. There's some really nice picks on here. That's good job, buddy. All right. Tim Theo, I think this might be the first one you've submitted. You submitted on Twitter, but I appreciate that. I think this might be your first mock draft for Mock Draft Monday. So, but someone we follow each other on Twitter. A lot of good interaction there. So Tim traded back to 5 and got Jalen Carter, so we love that. And Kalijah Cansey, right? I mean, that interior defensive line right there is going to wreck some game plans. So, man, I know it's a little bit of a redundancy. I don't care. You can fit them both on in this defense. I love what those two would do to wreck some running games and passing games and offensive game plans. So I like that. Carter and Cansey. Trading back to Seattle, maybe not so realistic because division rival, like we talked about before, maybe not, but I like that. Then we got Torrance, again, a very popular pick tonight, and then Whippler, right? And then we got Isaiah Foskey, so we went edge rusher in the 3rd round. And, in my video about Austin Ford's drafting, talked about how the Patriots go edge rusher a lot in round 3, so that checks out in my book based on at least what I saw there. Love getting Jalen Jones in the 3rd round, then Tyjae Spears, right? And then receiver Jonathan Mingo, I know is someone that a lot of people are like, really good physical tools, so he's a really interesting late receiver. And then Ventrell Miller, love that linebacker late, taking some depth there. And then DeMarco Helms, a safety, I take him a lot. Yeah, I like this mock a lot. I mean, we've got a couple comments on this. Love Torrance and Ringo in the 3rd pick for me, right? Jalen Carter, Cansey, and Zach Allen, eyes like wide open. That look right there, that emoji, that's the look on the quarterback's face, right? When those 3 lined up, right? MKT Bongo, interesting draft, right? So good draft, but keep dreaming if you think Carter will drop to 5. I mean, it seems super unlikely. But here's the scenario where it happens, right? Where teams are trading up and clamoring for those quarterbacks because last year's class was so bad. And so if the 3 quarterbacks go in the top 4 and Anderson goes, then it's potential Carter could fall, right? So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but it's still not super. I think the bigger likelihood is that 2 quarterbacks go in the top 4 and one of them slides past that. That's what I think, but it's possible, right? So yeah. Real quick, Tony, hi. Hey, good to see you, Tony. It's been a while. Can't wait to watch this after work, but so grateful for your challenge. So grateful for you, Tony. Really good dude, positive encourager. So appreciate you hanging out with us or dropping by, and then you're going to watch it later. So Tim, dude, good job, man. I like this. I like this a lot. If we somehow pulled this off, dude, Monty Austin Fort for governor or whatever. I would be a really big fan of that draft. So good job. All right. Mexotic got a mock draft here. He also traded back, right, and picked up some extra picks. Traded with Philly. Gannon trading with his old team there. So that's a little interesting, something going on there, right? Picking up an extra 1st round and then a future 2nd and 4th. Took cornerback Christian Gonzalez and then halfback Dwan Jones. Like, listen, I'm not a fan of going running backs in the 1st round. I get that this guy though is like the best running back since Saquon. So if you're going to take one, that's the guy you take. Taking him at pick 31, it feels like maybe it's practically a 2nd round pick. So maybe it's a little more okay, right? I mean, that'd be listen, I wouldn't mind having him on the team. That's for sure. So, taking him there, I'm not going to totally, again, it's a philosophical thing about how I like to get running backs. I'd rather build the offensive line, take running backs later, but I'm not going to totally pick that apart. That if I don't think he's going to fall there, someone's going to take him. So if you get him there, I think that's overall, there's something to be said for that. So yeah. Okay. And then of course, what we have here is
John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
It's got JMS, so obviously that's a win. Then we've got Foskey again, the edge rusher in round 3, like that. Then you've got Jalen Duncan, a tackle out of Maryland, right? I think getting a tackle somewhere around there or later is something that would be a good thing to do, right? Then we got receiver Xavier Hutchinson, kind of an interesting later receiver that I think a lot of people like. So I think he's an interesting pick. Then we've got a linebacker in the 5th round, like that. And then Warren McClendon, I've talked about him before. He's a right tackle, played for Georgia in the SEC, but I like that a lot. Oh, there's Tim. Appreciate you dropping in. Yeah, thank you for submitting. Really good mock, buddy. So yeah, I think Mixotic, this is an interesting one. Although I don't do running back in round 1 for philosophical reasons. I think there's some nice players there. Robert's point out missing a defensive interior will continue to suffer against the run. That's maybe the one biggest thing that I want to see here, right, is add an interior defensive lineman. So, again, we have to see what they do in free agency, right? So, yeah, but there's some players I like here, right? So, yeah, if we assume Hargrave comes with this mock, then maybe, right? Right, yeah. I wonder if JMS was notified of this channel would make for a great interview. Oh man, that'd be great. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Yeah. So yeah. Let's see. Alan saying Bijan, greatest high school running back from Tucson too. Interesting. Okay. So a little bit local. Robert saying, what is his Discord? So in the description of this video, there should be a link to the Discord. So there is a link there, so you should be able to get in there. If not, let me know. Yeah, Jordan saying those top 3 would be insane. Hall, Gonzalez is best cornerback, Bijan best running back, Schmidt's best center, right? So, hey, yeah, right. And the gut feeling, will JMS make it out of this first? So, like, yeah, Decimus, I feel like he's going to go late first. We'll see, right? But I do kind of feel like he's going to sneak into late first. That's my thinking. We'll see though, right? But yeah. So yeah, there's some nice players on here, right? There maybe you like to see an interior defensive lineman, but there's some good stuff on here. Good job, Exotic. Next, we have Judai. He only did the first 4 rounds, but he did do a trade here, right? So he's got Jalen Carter, 3 overall. Dwan Jones, this the guy I talked about. And then, of course,
He's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
JMS is always a winner, right? And he traded Hopkins, got a 2nd, a 5th, and a future 3rd. And then he's got Keely Ringo in the 3rd. Love that. Receiver Cedric Tillman in the 3rd round. So I like going receiver a little bit later, like that Tajay Spears. So yeah, so we didn't get the full draft here, but I like what I saw here. I like every player on this draft. So good job, Judah. I think this is a good one. All right. Next up we have Robert Moore. There you are, Robert. All right. Uh-oh, Robert. You finally made your son happy here with your mock draft. Robert has Jalen Carter, of course, right, at 3. And then in the 2nd round,
it's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
In fact, you know what? I hope y'all don't mind, but because Robert's son is watching.
John Michael, he's our center Schmitz. His name's on my draft too. No matter what they say, this mock is A-okay. It's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
All right, so there you go. JMS for Robert's son. Awesome. Light it up, JMS, right? All right. So Keely Ringo, like that pick. Then when Cody Mock, a guy who a lot of people say might go move inside, right? So he could be a tackle. Maybe he's going to play guard, but he's an interesting prospect. So I like that there. Ivan Pace Jr., a linebacker that a lot of people really like, really good physical tools. Some people have said he has a little bit of Parsons to his game, the linebacker from the Cowboys. A little bit of that, not necessarily at the same level, but right, a little bit of that kind of a player, has some pass rush to him. Then we have Byron Young, an edge out of Tennessee. Then Andrew Voorhees got a guard there, right? So I like that pick. Then Chris Rodriguez Jr., a running back out of Kentucky. Then we got Stetson Bennett, quarterback out of Georgia, and DeMarco Hallum, safety. Yeah, I like this draft. I think you hit on a lot of good players here, a lot of key things, right? Obviously, it's got JMS, right? Jordan Peason. I like Byron Young and Ivan Pace that late. Not a fan of pairing Rodriguez with Connor since they're the same time running back, being physical, but no real speed threat. Okay. Ivan Pace with Simmons and Collins and Reyes as DC is a cheat code, right? So that could be really interesting, right? So yeah, No, I think this is a really good draft, Robert. I think you hit all the key points and you made your son happy. And that's really what it's all about, right? So good job, Robert. Yeah, and Drew saying, yeah, and I mentioned this, Cody Mauch is likely to move inside the guard from what I've heard. Yeah, so he probably be a guard for them, but maybe he starts out at tackle. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, right? I think that's an interesting pick. All right, good job, Robert. Next we have MKT Bongo, or Mr. Money Minetti, right? So here is his mock draft. He also took Jalen Carter, traded Hopkins, he got a first round pick for Hopkins. Interesting, an early first round pick. Oh, so I don't think that's going to happen, but I like it if we somehow pull that off. That'd be one heck to get Jalen Carter and Devin Witherspoon, who I love, right? I think that probably the best cornerback in this draft. Whoo, that would be nice. So there we go. And then you get Torrance. Oh my goodness. Okay, listen, maybe not realistic, right? But you've got the best interior defensive lineman, best cornerback, best guard, and
it's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
The best center, right? And then you got Devin Shane, a really good speedy running back, right? Then you got a little bit of trade move around in there to add a pick. Then you got edge Colby Wooden out of Auburn, wide receiver Cedric Tillman. Then you got Broderick Martin, a defensive interior lineman out of Western Kentucky, punter Michael Turk, kicker Will Reichard, if that's how it's pronounced, and linebacker D Winters, right? So yeah. David Pan saying only Bill O'Brien would give the Cardinals an early first round pick for D-Hop, right? So yeah, right. So there you go. But listen, yeah, if you can get Jalen Carter and Devin Witherspoon, automatically get an A+, right? So maybe not realistic, but I like we pull off that draft. That's another one where I'm like, yeah, Monty for governor. All right. Okay. Next, but good job. Appreciate that. Good mock. It just maybe not super realistic, but boy, that would be a heck of an outcome. We now have Rashad Paines. I don't know. I haven't seen Rashad in the chat, but if you're here, say hey. So he's got Will Anderson, number 3. Obviously, that's a good pick. And then he moved up, or he traded Hopkins, right? And then, we've talked about that. I think JMS might go in the first round. So maybe this is a more realistic, right? And
it's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
So even though you can get JMS later, this might be the more realistic scenario of trading and getting him there. So obviously we love JMS. Rashad went to LSU, so he's a big LSU fan. So, Kayshawn is on all of his mocks. So that's not surprising. Darnell Wright, the guy a lot of people say is the best right tackle in the draft. We talked about that earlier. We could really use that. Kendre Miller, love that pick. Pace, we love that again. Jonathan Mingo, a lot of people were like his tools. Winters again was tied to the Cardinals, and then another center, Alex Forsyth, late, in the 6th round. Maybe I don't know enough about him to see if he's a guy who might move to guard, but even if he's just a depth piece there, right? In the 6th round to get a backup center is a good outcome, right? So yeah, I think this is a good draft, right? Good players. Maybe the one thing that is missing from this that was missing on another one earlier was no interior defensive line, so, if you're going to have to, if this is the mock, if this is what the draft were to look like, it would have to mean that they get some defensive line help in free agency, right? Which we talked about earlier. Maybe they do with some of the Eagles free agents, but Jordan loves this, right? Love this draft. I know, right? Miller, Pace, and Mingo are fire picks, right? Drew saying, yeah, pull that off Monty and David Steers, and we each get their own keys to the city, right? Yeah. Drew saying Kayshawn doesn't seem likely to me with his character concerns, but if he interviews well, he could be a fun addition. Yeah. I just don't think, watch them prove me wrong. I just don't think they're going receiver there or that early. I don't think we're going to see an early receiver. Again, just watch them prove me wrong. Right. So Simon's saying everyone thinks D-Hop can fetch a first or second. I don't really think so based on what's going against him. Age, contract, PD injury, PFF prize, right? He'll only go bring in a 4th. I'll tell you what, I actually am a little more optimistic about getting a good pick. And, I did my video where I looked at comps, right, for him and stuff. And I thought it was a late first, early second is about what it would look like. But there's another factor in this. I talked about this on the podcast I was a guest on this last week. If you look at the free agency class and wide receivers, and you look at the draft class and wide receivers, they're not as deep as other years. It's not a great receiver class. There's some nice ones, but it's not as deep as like last year. And there's not a ton of great, the free agents and the receiving free agents there's not a ton of them. So like if you're a team out there that wants to upgrade your receiving core, there's some scarcity. And I think one of those teams, maybe someone who's a contending team and late in the first round might look and say, you know what? Yeah, we could draft someone who's a reach who won't, be able to contribute, or we could trade for Hopkins. I'm a little more optimistic that they could get a better pick than people think because of the scarcity, but we'll see. Right. So yeah. And Robert saying, Joe, I listened to your podcast. You made good points about the receiver market. Yeah. So yeah, this is more or less what I kind of said. And, and I want to give credit. Like, I saw someone else talk about, if you all follow Theo Ash, he has a YouTube and he does a lot of stuff in social media. He had a video where he talked about that too. So I want to kind of give him credit for mentioning that. But yeah, so I think that's, quarterback and wide receiver market lacking, right? So we'll see, right? Yeah, Decimus thinks we're going to raid Philly's free agencies with their cap issues. Might see that happening, right? So yeah, Austin saying I could see us go wide receiver if we trade Hop. Receivers kind of lacking this year. Saying could see us going higher in the draft. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, right. Let's see, James. Thanks for being here, James. If it's not a first and a third for Hopkins, no need to trade him. Let's not forget our record without him. He's a difference maker. Yeah, my position on Hopkins is simple. If he doesn't want to be, or if he wants to stay, we keep him. If he said, yeah, I am up for being part of this new, what we're doing here, I'll sign on, I want to be here, then you keep him. If he has said, I want to go to contender, get me out of here, you trade him. You don't keep a guy who doesn't want to be here, but if he wants to be here, you keep him. That's my position. So it really all comes down to what went down in that meeting, right? So we'll see. So yeah, Jordan P saying you have to watch that video of Ivan Pace and one-on-one pass rush shows Micah Parson-esque. Maybe if you could tweet that at me or send me that, if you don't mind, I'd love to check that out. Jordan, thanks. All right, but yeah, Rashad, good mock. The only thing I would want to see is interior defensive line. I think that's a big need, but I like most all the players here. I like what you did overall. Yeah, good job. Avery 1X, who I know is in the chat tonight. Thanks for being here and hanging out with us. So he traded back, and we just got done talking about receivers, right? He traded back and took Quentin Johnston, the biggest boomer bust upside toolsy receiver. He's a high ceiling, but a little bit of a low floor in terms of that. But I like the tools. I think he's an intriguing guy to look at. So he traded back and went receiver. Now I'm not going receiver in first round, but interesting player though, no doubt. And then we've got cornerback Tyreek Stevenson. Getting a cornerback second round, I like that a lot. From what I read about his scouting report, he's a guy who's doesn't have as much of an upside. He's not like elite tools, but he's like a high floor. Like he's a guy who's probably ready to play pretty quickly. So that's a nice player. We got BJ Ojulari, edge rusher in second round. Like that. Darnell Wright, be the right, plug him into right tackle for the next decade. Love that. Devin Shane, right? Halfback, speedy halfback. We've got a trade for Hopkins here for a third and a fourth. So you didn't get as much as we talked about, but yeah. And then you got Kobe Turner. Love that. Andrew Voorhees, love that. Olusegun Olatimi, love that. Braden Daniels, tackle, then safety, Javarius Owens out of Houston, then receiver Justin Shorter. So, for me, I'm not going receiver first, and that's just me, but I like all the rest of these picks. I like what you did for the rest of the draft. Yeah, good job. Every W draft, right? Alan saying D-Hop's no trade clause was voided, right? That's what the reports are, that because of his suspension, it was voided. So that seems to be what people are saying. So as far as I know, that's correct. It's been a couple people have reported that. So that's what it sounds like. But I want to real quick, I'll just comment on that. Like, I know there's some people say, you know what, if that's voided, we can trade him wherever we want, whoever's going to give us the best picks. And, you know, there's some truth to that, but something that you have to think about is, you know, players talk, teams get and front offices build reputations. And we're already a team that's trying to fix our reputation, you know, and it feels like we've got some positive momentum with the GM and the coach. But like, if we send, you know, Hopkins to the proverbial Siberia, you know, trade him to a team he doesn't want to go to that is far from contending because they offer us the best picks and he's not happy, like that hurts us in future free agency. Like agents remember that, players hear about that, and then guys like, I'm not going to go there because they didn't do right by him, right? So you just if you have if Hopkins wants to be traded and there are some reasonable offers from teams that he wants to go to, then you try to do your best to find a solution that works for everyone, because even though you might get a little bit better draft capital from another team down the road, that might, you just want to do right by people because that might impact whether someone you want to sign as a free agent comes here. These are those little things you got to keep in mind and stuff like this. But so nice picks on here though. Nice players. Again, I wouldn't go receiver earlier, but yeah. Drew is saying Johnston, another scary pick, kind of fits the Traylon Burks, AJ Brown mold, but man, that contested catch percent. Yeah, they talked about that, right? Not real good for you'd expect better contested catch for a guy with his physical profile, right? Yeah, that makes sense, right? All right. So yeah, okay. Well, next mock draft. Drew McWhorter, who is in the house. All right. Oh, Drew also did the double dip trade back like me, right? So Drew, that's it. I like that. I did that, right? So he traded back a couple times, picked up some picks, got Christian Gonzalez, one of the better cornerbacks in this draft, like that. Got Broderick Jones, so you got a tackle, right? A first round tackle. So I don't know if you're playing, I mean, assuming you're going to try to play him or one of our other tackles at right tackle. I think he's more of a left tackle, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe move him to right to start. Okay. We got JSN. So we got a receiver. You traded Hopkins. So you loaded up on picks here. Whoo. And then, so you added a receiver there. Luke Whippler. We got a center. We got an edge rusher in Foskey. Moro Ojomo. We got an interior defensive lineman. Ivan Pace. We've been talking about him. Rashad Torrance. Kenny McIntosh, love him. Then we got more defensive interior line with DJ Dale. So, yeah, Jordan P likes Christian Gonzalez, right? So, Drew, I'll tell you, I mean, yeah, I like what you did here. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not going receiver early, but you traded Hopkins and you found someone to try to kind of replace him. Not saying he's as good, but I get that. And then, you've got a tackle. I'm assuming we're going to play him a right tackle, good cornerback, got a center. Yeah. I mean, the only thing maybe if it's me, I want to see in here that I didn't see was a guard somewhere, but I'm just, nitpicking, right? Maybe they bring in a free agent, right? But yeah, did a lot of nice things here, right? Yeah. Overall, good job. I like that, Drew. So let's see. James is saying, let's see. Hopkins is better than Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown, even his age. Chiefs got 5 picks for him, not to mention the contract they got, so don't mean anything. Yeah, well, okay. I'll tell you, the age does matter. I will say that. Like AJ Brown's much younger, so AJ Brown, maybe Hopkins is better, but like that matters. That matters a lot. So AJ Brown, was probably, even if he's not as good as Hopkins was or is or whatever, he's still a really good receiver. So, Tyreek Hill's. I will say this: when I did an analysis video on the comps or what I think the trade value for Hopkins is, and I looked at that the Tyreek Hill trade was an outlier. Like they got a lot. They got more pick value than any other trade. There were so it was interesting. But anyway, yeah. All right, Drew's commenting on his draft. It was the way the board fell for me. I wouldn't take many of the wide receiver prospects, but if JNS fell to 22, I'd consider it, and I wanted to mix up this week. Yeah, well, listen, we talked about that. I appreciate people mixing it up, right? So that's so it's not so redundant, right? Same with Broderick Jones. Okay. Yeah. And sometimes the ball, the board falls a certain way for you, and you just got to go with how it falls. So I get that. Right. All right. Good job, Drew. Appreciate that. Right. All right. Next up, we have Robert Taylor. He stuck at 3, took Will Anderson. He then got Mazi Smith, interior defensive lineman out of Michigan. I really like that player. I mean, as a potential guy to take him second round. I think he could be really good in this defense. So that's really interesting. Then there's in with that, there was a little bit of a trade back to get him and add some picks. So I like that. Darnell Wright getting that right tackle of the future. Love that. Then we've got Clark Phillips III, a cornerback of Utah. He's a little bit smaller cornerback. And what's interesting about that, and I was thinking about this when I looked at this, Robert, is as much as I feel like they need to get bigger outside cornerbacks, one of the things you've seen with the Patriots, which is again where Monty Ossenfort cut his teeth as an executive, is they're not afraid to take smaller cornerbacks. They've taken a few of those guys. So, I could see it. Like I in the third round, a guy with his skill set. Yeah, I could see it. Then we got Rashawn Johnson. We love that guy around here, right? So love that pick. Zach Harrison, a little bit more of a developmental, bigger edge rusher. So, like him to put him in that defense, right? Jonathan Mingo, we talked about him earlier. Really, some really nice tools. He's a good receiver to look at late. Love that. Then we've got a couple, offensive linemen, Neil Broker and Ricky Stromberg. And, and I don't know if either of these guys are the right guy or good, but here's what I'll say. And I've taken both of them before. In that video I did about Monty Ossenfort's draft history, I went over how the Patriots had found some really good offensive linemen in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round, even as undrafted free agents. So I don't know if Broker or Stromberg are the guy that they would take there, but if Monty Ossenfort takes a guard or a center there, I'm going to feel good about it. Whoever it may or may not be these guys. It might be somewhere else, but I think that Monty Ossenfort is going to probably find, is probably going to look to take some offensive linemen somewhere around there that are going to be guys that he's scouted and has, or that they've scouted and through their process that they see as, someone that they think they can develop. So I like getting those positions there, so yeah. And then D Winter's a guy who again was linked to them. Right. So yeah, I think there's some really nice things where I think you did a good job. I think you hit on a lot of important positions. Yep. This is a good one, right? Jonathan Mingo, Jordan P likes that. Anders Smith and Wright instantly make this a W, right? Yeah. Johnson, Mingo, and Harrison just seal it. Robert, I think you did a really good job with this mock. Yeah, nice job. Now we have Aaron Schroll, who has he also has a YouTube channel, the Fantasy Bros, I believe, that he does. So, Aaron, thanks for submitting this mock. I don't know if you're here hanging out with us, but appreciate this. So he's got Jalen Carter, number 3 overall. Osiris Torrance, another popular pick tonight. Then he's got Cam Smith, a cornerback in the 3rd round. Love that. Cedric Tillman, we got a nice, speedy receiver there in the 4th round, right? So adding, I like going receiver there or later. So I like that. Tajay Spears, we talked about that. Him, underrated running backs like that. He's got a trade back to add some picks, which the Patriots like to do. Then Andrew Voorhees, one of the better guards in this draft in the 4th round. That's a great spot to take a guard. Then we've got Henry To'o. I probably butchered that. But getting a linebacker there. I like that. Then we've got a developmental edge, Dylan Horton in the 6th round, Cameron Latu, depth tight end there. Then a cornerback in the 6th round, Jarrell Luter Jr. Again, in my video about Monty Ossenfort's draft strategy, talked about that the Patriots like taking cornerbacks kind of later. They take them, I think 7th round, but we didn't have any 7th round picks in this one. It was part of the trade that we did for the cornerback, what's his name, from the Raiders. Anyway, so yeah, taking a cornerback late there is kind of in keeping with what the Patriots did. So if Ossenfort kind of emulates that and, his philosophy is built on that checks out. So yeah, hit the interior defensive line. You hit the trenches of the offensive line, got us some cornerback help. linebacker depth, halfback, got a receiver. I like that a lot. I think this is a really well-rounded draft. Aaron, good job. Jakey the Snakey, thanks for being here. Tillman in the fourth is wild. Before this year was viewed as a day one pick, right? Yeah. So I'll tell you this again. This isn't viewed as a great receiver class. But there's always guys later that you can find that might have the tools or the speed or something. You find those guys, develop them. So in a draft class like this, where the receivers aren't as good as they were like last year, I like finding someone you like later who can do something well and bring them in and build from them rather than going early. So yeah, I like that. Drew saying, please let Cam Smith fall to the third round. Absolute steal. I agree. Early in mock draft season, he was kind of trending as a first round pick, and now he's going later. So yeah, Aaron, this is a good mock. I like it. Okay. Next up we have Mike. Mike is in the Discord. His username in Discord is Let's Have Some Fun, I think. So this is his first mock. And he did a little mix things up a bit here. He leaned into the trades. He traded back multiple times and got us some picks, right? Yes. Okay. And he traded around, and man, it's hard to keep track of all those trades, but there's a lot of them in there. Okay. I'm guessing there's a lot of them that are future trades. So he's the one with the Texans in particular, he got a bunch of future picks. So this is a lot of picks, but there's some nice ones in here, I think, though. We've got Kalijah Cansey, so that ended up being your first selection, which I love that, right? We love Kalijah Cansey. Joey Porter Jr., viewed as the best press man cornerback in the draft, probably. So you got a really good corner there. Then we got one of the better guards, Steve Avila, right? So we help in the trenches. Dwan Jones, again, a guy that I talked about, and there's been a lot of drafts, so we like that a lot. Then Nick Herbig, an edge rusher that has some interesting tools that I think would be a neat guy to consider taking there. And then
we've got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
We've got JMS. Then we've got Devon Achane, a speedy running back, like that. Ivan Pace, we've talked about him, like that. Noah Sewell, linebacker, and I read his profile, and I believe he's, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things it says about him is he's very much I think he's very much a coverage guy, or maybe he's not good in coverage. He's got a certain play style that he needs to kind of fit in a certain type of defense. But yeah, you want back-to-back linebackers. So that's interesting. Maybe that's in the third and fourth round. That might be for me a little early to take more linebackers. If I'm taking two, I definitely probably want to take one of them later. But nitpicking. But I love the Pace Jr. pick in particular. Andrew Voorhees, really nice guard there, right? That's a good pick. And then Kenny McIntosh, we like him around here. That's a good pick late. Cameron Brown, a cornerback. You got another cornerback in there, and then edge Nick Hampton. So there's some things I really like in here. I mean, that's a lot of trades, getting some future draft capital. But I'll tell you, I mean, what talked about the Patriots like trading back, and one of the things they also like doing in those trade backs is getting future picks. So yeah, maybe that's a little more trading than we'll see, but I like some of these picks, right? If picked, Joey Porter Jr. can contribute more to the Cards than his dad. Hope he can. Yeah, right. His dad kind of is still in my nightmares with that fumble recovery for a touchdown, right? Yeah. Drew's saying probably not the most likely scenario, but you never know. This is a deep draft, and that could really set up our future for a long time, right? Pace could start in base 4-3, and Sewell can replace Vallejo. I'm okay with that. Okay, yeah. So, okay, Mike, there's some nice players on this. Yeah, I like some of the things you did here. You hit on a lot of important things. Got center, guard. I mean, honestly, you might look at what he's done for offensive line in this draft pick. Like, you got Avila and Andrew Voorhees as the guards of the future. You've got John Michael Schmitz as the center of now and the future, and then Dwan Jones is the right tackle. Like, you've potentially replaced everyone except our left tackle. So you definitely did a good job fixing that offensive line, right? So getting a good cornerback, defensive interior, right? Maybe you went later in edge, and some people, but Herbig is an interesting edge rusher. So no, I like this, Mike. I think you did a good job. Awesome, thank you. And now we have Chad Ireland. Appreciate you submitting your mock draft on Twitter. I believe, Chad, are you from Australia? I think Chad is from Australia, if I'm remembering correctly. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Appreciate your mock draft. Got Jalen Carter, and we love that. And then DeAndre Hopkins trade. So got some picks, including a first round pick. Took edge rusher Nolan Smith late in the first round. So we got interior and we've got edge. Here's Michael. Michael was the last draft. Oh, he said this in Discord. Fortune favors the bold, right? There you go. That's the theme of Mike's mock draft. Appreciate that. So then we've got Voorhees in the third round, right? Guard, we like that. Jalen Jones, cornerback in the third round. Cedric Tillman. Then we've got another defensive interior lineman, Zach Pickens, Kenny McIntosh. Then we've got a center, Ricky Stromberg, and the late receiver, Puka Nacua. Yeah, I think this is a good mock. I mean, obviously, Jalen Carter, you love that. Then you've got an edge rusher, one of the better edge rushers, maybe a little more of a project than Anderson, but still a good edge rusher, potentially good guard. You got some receiver help, cornerback. Yeah, more depth interior defensive line, halfback. Yeah, I think this is a good mock, Chad. I like it very much so. Thank you for submitting this. Jay Green saying, I thought that was James Harrison. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I'm thinking somewhat wrong. You're right. It was James Harrison. I was thinking the wrong Pittsburgh Steeler linebacker. Joey Porter was a part of our coaching staff, I think is what happened, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you for the correction. Yep. Not bad at all there. Pairing the UGI guy is a good approach. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Right. And you managed to avoid Wilson before pick 12. So good job. Yeah. Okay. Good job. We've got Connects 3322. I think I saw you in the chat earlier tonight. Thanks for submitting this. And then here we go. He's got a trade scenario, right? Trades back and gets Jalen Carter. We talked about it earlier. Maybe it's not super realistic, but still, if you can pull that off, that's really good, right? Then Joey Porter Jr. So we've got then Tyreek Stevenson. So you really revamped our cornerback room, right? So you got a couple really good cornerbacks plus interior defensive line. So I like that. And then, of course,
it's got John Michael. He's our center Schmitz.
Got JMS, gotta love that, right? There's a Hopkins trade in here for the JMS, and then someone else. Then we've got Devin Ashane, right? We've had him in a multiple mock drafts. So got the edge, our running back help. Kobe Turner, we love him. More interior defensive line help. Andrew Voorhees got a good guard there. Then we got a receiver, Trey Palmer, one of those guys a little bit later. Then we got another center, double dipped on Michigan Oluwatimi. So that's interesting. Maybe we try to move one of them to guard. Maybe we don't. Kenny McIntosh, we love him. Linebacker D Winners, we talked about him. And then Comer Latu, a depth at tight end. So yeah, I really like what you did in the first half of this draft. For me, I'm not taking two centers. Instead of the second center, I'm going in a different position there. But overall, really good draft. Love Kobe Turner, love Voorhees, Schmitz, right? Yeah, I think there's some really nice things here, right? So good job. Appreciate that draft. Thank you very much. Rainey submitted one on Twitter. Thank you for your mock draft, Rainey. So he also traded back and still got Jalen Carter, right? Again, maybe we talked about this, maybe not realistic, but still, if you can pull it off, that's quite a move. Then Nolan Smith, we had him in another one recently. So you got a defensive interior lineman and an edge rusher. So, we like getting that combo. And then
it's got John Michael. He's our center Schmitz.
So we got JMS, so that's good. Then you've got a little bit of a trade to add some picks here. Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson. So we got a little bit smaller cornerback out of TCU, but a talented one. And then double dipping Keely Ringo. So you've got kind of what you've got here then for us, it looks like, is you've got a slot cornerback and an outside cornerback, right? Kind of back to back. Okay. Then Pace Jr., we've talked about, we like him. Voorhees, we like him. Torrance getting the safety kind of late for depth there, like that. And then Kenny McIntosh, again, we love him as a receiving back. And then McClendon Curtis, tackle out of Chattanooga, kind of a developmental, one of those late, offensive linemen that hopefully they can draft and develop. So, yeah, I like a lot of what you did here. Got the key positions we need. We got some interior line, defensive line help, edge help, offensive line help, cornerback help. halfback. Yeah, I think Rainey, I think you did a really good job hitting on a lot of key positions here. So yeah, I like it a lot. Drew is saying Hodge Thomason has the pedigree, but he's just so short. He's shorter than Samuel Jr. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the issue, right? It's what they say about guys like that if they were 2 inches taller, 3 inches taller, they'd be a first round pick, right? But you can play those guys in the slot and they can be valuable on a team, right? So yeah. We got a couple comments as well. Jakey the Snakey saying I would lose my mind if we got Keely Ringo the third, right? That I would be really happy with that. I know he's kind of a little bit of trouble, late in the season, college season, but he's a guy who's got tools you can work on and develop, kind of like we did with Marco Wilson. David Pan, Adrian Wilson did have 2 99-yard scores in one season. That's okay. Nice. Let's see. Jay Green saying, not sure how multiple people have traded back 5, still got Carter. Every time I've traded with the Seahawks, they take Carter at 3. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. T. So Grammy, thanks for being here. I feel like we should take Steve Avila for sure. He's going to be a great player. Watch. Yeah. Listen, he's one of the better guards in this. So I take him on a lot of mock drafts. So I like that. Right. Drew, love the rest of this one. Hit all the key positions. Yeah. Yep. So, okay. I think this is a good one. I think you did a good job with this mock draft. So I like it. We've got Erva 8, who is, I think that's Moore's Legacy, who was in here earlier. Not sure if you're still here. Took Will Anderson at 3. Then in the second round, Osiris Torrance. We love that. Cam Smith, cornerback in the third round. Like that. Then we got linebacker Noah Sewell in the third round. Probably other linebackers I'd rather take there, but still that's all right. Kobe Turner, love that. Then we've got halfback Deuce Vaughn out of Kansas State, tackle Braden Daniels, and then he traded James Conner to the Vikings. Okay, I don't know that how much of a market Conner's going to have right now with his contract, but okay. So you're trading him away. So yeah, made this last minute. Okay. So there you go. Then thanks for being here. Yeah. Okay. So mixing it up a little bit. Got a quarterback out of Houston, Clayton Tune, and then Elijah Higgins, receiver late out of Stanford. And again, remember in that video I did talk about Patriots like to take a receiver late. So could definitely see Austin Fort doing that. So obviously we love Anderson. The Torrance pick is great. Love getting a Cam Smith there in the third round. Maybe Noah Sewell. There's other line. I don't know if Pace wasn't there, then maybe, but I'd definitely rather take Pace there. But nitpicking here, right? Splitting hairs. Love Kobe Turner. I don't know a lot about Deuce Vaughn. I need to look at him a little bit more, but getting a running back in 5th round, usually you can find some good value there. Gonna tackle late. Yeah. Overall, there's some nice players, right? Right. So yeah. Drew saying I gotta hop out. Good night, everyone. Yeah, we're about to wrap up. In fact, we're almost done, I think. So in fact, that was the last mock draft. This was a marathon, right? 2 hours, 12 minutes so far. So yeah, a lot of good mocks. Appreciate everyone submitting those and hanging out with us. We have a lot of fun here on Mock Draft Monday, right? So more Legacy saying that running back is 5'6" receiving back. Good to know. Okay. Deuce Vaughn, the definition of electric. He's just really short. Okay. Yeah. So one of those kinds of scat backs. Okay. Yeah. We could, have one of those in the rotation. Could use that. So yeah, this is a lot of fun, guys. Appreciate all your mocks. Again, if you want to submit, Grand Asher, thanks for putting this chat. If you'd like to have your mocks draft during the live stream, please do the following. Complete a mock draft, one of these simulators, right? And then save your results, tweet them at me, right? Or save them or send them in Discord, right? But thank you everyone for being here. Yeah, I got folks saying goodbye. Did Saquon sign Saquon during free agency? He's gonna ask for a lot. Great show, Joe. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for hanging out with us. Blaze, thank you for being here. What do you think about the XFL? I haven't really followed it. I know a lot of people are, but I don't have time for. I only have so much time, so I don't really follow. But it's football for people who are jonesing for football. So, Omar, thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. So I'm going to throw up my shout outs to the channel members who support the channel on a monthly basis, and we're going to get out of here. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time, and peace.
So join